morning, everyone. Here we are.
We made it. Everybody got up.
Everybody
woke up.
We're all awake. Is this rehearsal or is this real?
No, it's real.
It's real.
It's a real thing.
Is it real? You guys ready? I think we're ready. I'm Don Lemon alongside Poppy Harlow and Kaitlan Collins. It is November 1st, and welcome to our very first show. We hope you enjoy. You're going to learn a lot about us and get a lot of news, right?
A lot of news. And can I tell y'all? Obviously, you know, I just moved here. You know the details of my move. There was a Halloween parade outside my apartment last night.
We got the text.
It went until like 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Yes. Blaring music.
Yes.
All of this stuff as I was trying to go to sleep early, like first day of school feeling.
Caitlin's texting us.
You got 6 hours.
You got 6?
And you?
Caitlin's texting us. I'm like, welcome to New York, girlfriend. Get used to it. Me, like, my kids got home from trick-or-treating super late. My husband's like, why aren't you asleep? And I was like, this is my new life, babe.
This is life.
I got probably 2 hours sleep. I woke up at 12:59 and I could not go back to sleep. Also, my friends threw like a little dinner party celebration last night, like 8 of us, maybe 10 of us, and they kept trying to give me wine. I was like, I gotta go.
I think you need new friends.
Yeah.
We're going to go to dinner at 6 p.m.
I have 2 new friends.
Oh.
Right. So I'm so happy to be here. We're going to get to the news. You're going to hear more about us a little bit later on. There's a lot to get to this morning, including a potential game changer in Russia's war on Ukraine from Iran. We're live at the State Department this morning.
New revelations this morning of a politically motivated plot by the intruder accused of attacking Nancy Pelosi's husband. And these facts refute all of the conspiracy theories around that attack.
We also have a new interview with Pennsylvania Senate candidate John Fetterman. His answers on whether he regrets participating in that debate with Mehmet Oz and updates on his health heading into the final days of the race. Don interviewed him, so obviously, as we know, no question was off limits.
Yeah, can't wait to get to that. We have a lot to get to, as I said this morning. We're going to begin, though, with a brand new CNN reporting on a major escalation in Russia's war on Ukraine. We are learning that Iran is preparing to send 1,000 new weapons to Vladimir Putin, including surface-to-surface short-range ballistic missiles and more attack drones. U.S. intelligence agencies monitoring Iran's support for Russia very closely. Straight to CNN's Kylie Atwood live at the State Department for us this morning. Kylie, good morning. This would be the first time Iran is sending advanced precision-guided missiles to Russia. How significant is this escalation?
Yeah, that's right, Don. This would be the first time that these advanced weapons would be going from Iran to Russia. And it's significant because of just how advanced these weapons are. First of all, they're hard to detect and they are able to hit at precision targets. So they're not just the drones that we have already seen Iran send to Russia in recent weeks that have been used to deadly effect on the battlefield. These are much more advanced weaponry. Now, we know that the Biden administration has been watching for Iran to send potentially more weaponry to Russia, with the Secretary of State saying just last week that the Biden administration is doing everything that they can do to try and break up these networks to prevent further shipments of Iranian weapons to the battlefield for Russia to use in the war in Ukraine.
Kylie, here's a concern that these weapons from Iran, it's going to change the course of Russia's war on Ukraine. Do we know how the Biden administration and NATO might respond to this?
Yeah, well, what we would expect would be definitely sanctions, right? The Biden administration doesn't like to get ahead of what those sanctions would look like, but the Secretary of State has already said that they are looking at sanctions that would be put in place if further weaponry were sent from Iran to Russia. What they would do is they would go after those who are manufacturing these weapons or shipping these weapons, of course, to try and prevent further weaponry from going from Iran to Russia. But it's also important, guys, to note that the fact that Russia is turning to Iran for these weapons does demonstrate just how they are doing in this war right now. They don't have necessarily all the weaponry that they want on their own to try and continue fighting this war.
CNN's Kylie Atwood at the State Department, thank you very much. And of course, CNN is on the ground in the region. We're going to join Clarissa Ward in just a little bit live from Ukraine. She is standing by in a central city where a Russian missile hit an industrial enterprise. What's she seeing on the ground as Iran prepares to send more weapons? Poppy?
So we'll get to Clarissa on the ground in a moment, but now more chilling details on that violent attack on Paul Pelosi, including the suspect's plan to hold the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, hostage and to break her kneecaps. That is what he told authorities. This suspect is now charged with a litany of state and federal crimes, including attempted murder and attempted kidnapping. He is expected in court in just a few hours for his arraignment. Let's go to our colleague Josh Campbell. He's live in San Francisco. I mean, Josh, the details of this are so chilling. I would also note every single fact from the DA to the police chief debunk all the conspiracy theories around this.
That's right. The more we're learning about this, we're learning that this was a suspect who allegedly conducted a politically motivated attack. As you mentioned, he has now been criminally charged. And in looking through court records, we're getting chilling new details, including this alleged confession the suspect made to investigators about his desire to harm the Speaker of the House to send a message to other members of Congress.
I am here today to formally announce charges against Mr. David DePape in connection with the violent attack on Mr. Pelosi.
The San Francisco District Attorney charging the man accused of attacking Paul Pelosi, the husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
The charges that we are filing today include attempted murder, residential burglary, assault with a deadly weapon, elder abuse, false imprisonment of an elder, as well as threats to a public official and their family.
Those are state charges. The Justice Department earlier charged DePape with 2 federal crimes: attempted kidnapping of a U.S. official, Nancy Pelosi, and assaulting a U.S. official's immediate family member. Authorities say the suspect brought 2 hammers, zip ties, rope, and a roll of tape with him to the Pelosi residence. San Francisco's district attorney now offering a chilling timeline about Paul Pelosi's face-to-face encounter with the alleged attacker, starting with the defendant allegedly breaking into the home through a rear glass door, before finding Mr. Pelosi sleeping on the second floor. The DA saying the suspect woke Pelosi up and forced him out of bed. Mr. Pelosi attempted to get to an elevator in the home to reach a phone. DePape allegedly blocked him. Pelosi eventually asked the suspect to let him use the bathroom, where he called 911 from his cell phone. 2 minutes after that call, police arrived. When they opened the door, they saw this.
The defendant was holding his hammer, which Mr. Pelosi appeared to be attempting to control by holding a portion of that hammer. The defendant then pulled the hammer away from Mr. Pelosi and violently struck him in the top of his head.
Authorities debunking right-wing conspiracy theories about Pelosi's attack, including that he knew the assailant, and making the suspect's motive crystal clear.
There is absolutely no evidence that Mr. Pelosi knew this man. As a matter of fact, the evidence indicates the exact opposite.
It appears as though this was based on his statements and comments that were made in that house during his encounter with Mr. Pelosi, that this was politically motivated.
The FBI's criminal complaint revealing the suspect told San Francisco police of his plans to hold Nancy Pelosi hostage and speak with her. He explained if she lied to him, he planned to break her kneecaps so she would have to be wheeled into Congress, telling police that scene would demonstrate to other members of Congress there were consequences to their actions.
Wow. Unbelievable. Josh, I mean, critically also is, how is Paul Pelosi doing? Do we have an update from the House Speaker?
We do. He remains in intensive care at this hour, recovering from those very serious injuries. Speaker Pelosi issued a statement last night. I'll read part of it. She says, since the horrific attack on Paul early Friday, we have been deluged with thousands of messages conveying concern, prayers, and warm wishes. She says, we are most grateful. She goes on to thank the staff at the local trauma center. She says, Paul is making steady progress on what will be a long recovery process. Our family thanks everyone for their kindness. And of course, it's so important to point out that as this family continues to deal with this traumatic experience, there are still people out there, many of them with large political followings, that have been making light and have been making fun of the brutal assault of an 82-year-old man. Of course, that comes as federal law enforcement continues to warn that in this era of heated political rhetoric, more violence could be forthcoming. Poppy?
The numbers certainly show it. The increase is staggering in just the last 5 years. Josh, thank you very much for that reporting from San Francisco.
Well, and as Josh was just noting, there are people who are mocking this, despite the serious nature of these charges and the details that we're learning about this. One of those is the Republican candidate for governor in Arizona, Kari Lake, who last night saw this as a laughing matter, essentially.
It is not impossible to protect our kids at school. They act like it is. Nancy Pelosi, well, she's got protection when she's in D.C. Apparently her house doesn't have a lot of protection. But
Wow.
You see the moderator there laughing as well, covering his face. Joining us now to discuss this is CNN correspondent Audie Cornish. Audie, thanks for joining us on our first morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
We are learning so many new details about this attack and how it unfolded and how really this person was plotting to go into Speaker Pelosi's home. What do you make of it when you see something like what Carrie Lake, how she treats it there?
I'm actually struck by the fact that law enforcement had to really underscore the facts of the case, right? Because they're aware that they have to refute whatever growing storm there is on social media. And it really distills the challenges that we have, right, as journalists, which is that even if you can have the words of the defendant, right, like in court documents, somehow all of that in this sort of post-factual environment is subject to debate, subject to discussion, and subject to speculation, and unfortunately subject to amusement. And when it comes to Carrie Lake, I have to be honest, the thing that worries me most is the audience laughter, not the comment. That's on all of us,
and if you look, if we have the video of, if you could just run the video again, you don't have to play the soundbite. You're right, the man sitting next to her, it's the moderator is just belly laughing because he thinks that something like that is funny, and the audience is laughing as well. But listen, there he is right there when she says it, and you'll see the guy there. But here's the thing. There have been some Republicans who have spoken out, Mitch McConnell and others, McCarthy, but for the most part, it's been very muted. And the people who are saying things, like Don Jr., tweeting stuff that I don't even put up the video of it. It is awful what they're doing, underwear and the hammer and, then saying this is open carry. Why aren't there more Republicans who are adamantly speaking out against this?
That's been the question probably for the last 2 to 3 to 4 years. I think the issue is constituency. If there has been a radical shift in the base and what appeals to them, you're going to see people basically playing to the crowd. There are votes for this. There is support for this. And this is some of the stuff I think people really need to kind of ask themselves, right? It's not just on the politicians. I think in a way they're sort of feeding a beast.
Yeah, and it's not just people that you're seeing running for office, it's other people who hold really powerful positions. Elon Musk obviously is in the middle of taking over Twitter and what that's going to look like. And he was
already tweeted something.
And he was one of the people who he suggested there was more to this story, basically feeding into these conspiracies, even though they've been refuted by these officials who are working on this case.
And this gets to your point earlier, Don. If you have people in positions of power, and Elon Musk in this point has established himself as a media elite, right, in doing this takeover, they are amplifying and spreading speculation and entertaining it. And if people in positions of power and status are doing that, well, then you at home are like, well, yeah, maybe I should think about X, Y, and Z. But that is part of the problem.
They're spreading a conspiracy theory that came from a conspiracy theorist, right, about Hillary Clinton and that she's actually not alive and that there's a body double. And that's where this conspiracy theory about Paul Pelosi came from. And then they're amplifying it and then laughing about it.
And it comes into the mainstream.
To the mainstream, like the Pizzagate,
Right. So I think the thing to think about is it's an ecosystem that has metastasized, right? It started off a small thing. Hey, that seems kind of weird. And now we're in a scenario where you actually have to assume, no matter what the news story is, it could be a mass shooting, as we've learned. There is a body of people who can spread a good amount of disinformation, speculation, and really rile people up.
And it kind of just speaks to the nature of dehumanizing politicians that we see. Audie Cornish, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you. Audie's going to be a regular with us.
Friend of the show. It's like Maria on Sesame Street.
Thank you. Wake up early, drink your coffee.
Thanks so
Coffee's on us. Yeah. Up next, we have Pennsylvania Senate candidate John Fetterman, who is joining us. It is an interview you are not going to want to miss. He talks about whether or not he would debate Mehmet Oz if he could do it all over again, and his message to voters who are worried about his health in the closing days of this race.
Plus, one-on-one with Governor Brian Kemp. See what happened when our very own Kaitlan Collins went to Georgia and asked him about Herschel Walker. You're watching CNN this morning, where there is a big sigh of relief in the room because we got through the first block of the show.
13 whole minutes. 13 minutes. We got a few more to go. We'll be right back.
Woo.
Nice A block, guys.
Good when you get to the first commercial.
Yeah,
okay.
Totally.
Nothing bad happened.
Hey, Annie, quick question.